one wants to suffer. No one chooses pain. Even Jesus in the garden, on the night he was betrayed, facing not only execution but torture as well, prayed, "Take this cup from me." No one wants to suffer. Lillian and I, my wife Lillian and I, took some courses at the hospital where we were planning to have Nathan be born at. And I remember we were talking about what was it going to be like when we went to the hospital, and what they had was labor, delivery, and recovery would all be in the same room. So it wasn't that you gave birth to the child and then you go to a nicer room, like it was all there. And after you gave birth, they would switch out the beds and you have a more comfortable bed. But it was all in the same room. They'd clean everything out and you'd stay there and recover with the baby there. But that question then is, well, that means labor and delivery can be happening next door to you at any time, all the time, because it's all in the same building. And so someone was kind of concerned and asked the teacher there, well, do you hear like screaming like all the time throughout the hallways and everything, because delivery and is happening, labor is happening all over the place? And she's like, we live on the North Shore. This hospital's on the North Shore. And the North Shore in Chicago is where all the money is. Her point was, we live on the North Shore, honey. Everybody gets an epidural. Everybody has this medicine that makes everything below that part in the spine much more comfortable. People aren't in that much pain because they all get the epidural. You won't hear screaming because no one wants to suffer. Now, it was funny at the time, but in light of today's passage, it turns a bit disturbing. Why are the rich blind to suffering? That's Jesus' point here. He's speaking probably directly to the Pharisees who loved money and saying, why do you do this? Why do you miss that person at your gate? No one wants to suffer, no one chooses pain, but why do we ignore the pain in others when we could do something about it? Why do we choose to let others suffer out of sight? Let us pray. Lord God, help us see your truth through Jesus Christ, who is the truth. Amen. You might be getting tired of this. These passages that are part of our lectionary is one after the other in this year in Luke, where Jesus is just concerned, it seems, about money. He's relentless. He said before, you can't serve it. You can't serve money. You can't serve wealth and God. Choose today whom you will serve. Why does Jesus have this laser-like focus? Well, if you look back, it wasn't part of our reading, but in chapter 16, verses 14 and 15, it said, the Pharisees who were lovers of money heard all this, and they ridiculed him. So he said to them, you are those who justify yourself in the sight of others, but God knows your hearts. For what is prized by human beings is an abomination in the sight of God. Jesus really had to get through to them because the thought was, if you were rich, that means you had God's favor and you were blessed. That was the default understanding in those days. And Jesus had to get through to them saying, that's not necessarily the case. You can have a broken, rotted heart and be rich. So here is a parable. 3 characters. You have the rich man dressed in purple. Purple would be the most expensive thing. It's only the rich could afford it. I don't know if you think that way. Because of the I don't know if you thought that well through, but as I said this in children's service, my oldest son was, purple's my favorite color. Well, luckily today it's much more affordable to have purple, but that purple, not only that, Jesus adds a little bit of a dig, a little bit of funny, and fine linen, meaning he had really nice underwear. We won't go there today. We won't ask you about that, but fine underwear, nice, silky underwear there. But he feasted daily. It's sort of like a buffet every day. I don't know about you. I can't do that. That's kind of crazy. Not just on special occasions, but every day does this man feast. Which means that he was making his servants work on the Sabbath, right? Because if you are feasting every day, someone needs to be preparing that. You're never giving them a break. For those of us that are Star Wars fans, just think of Jabba the Hutt, just constantly eating and celebrating, getting big and gorging on everything. Then you have Lazarus, and Lazarus is the only person in any of Jesus' parables that is given a name. Which is pretty interesting. You have to understand who is this? Who is this Lazarus that is given a name? You better pay attention to him. He's dressed, not in purple, but it's kind of gross. He's dressed in sores. One dressed in purple, the other dressed in sores. A picture all of us instinctively want to turn away from, but he's put at the gate. He probably is so desperate that he probably can't walk, he probably can't do much, and so someone else put him there. His friends say, at least hopefully we can't do much for you, but Lazarus, let us put you at the gate of the rich man, and hopefully he will turn an eye of mercy and see you. It says Lazarus is so desperate, he's probably hearing the feasting going on and saying, if only the stuff that fell from the table. Any of you that have dogs know how wonderful dogs can be when food falls from the table. You don't have to vacuum it up, you don't have to pick it up. As long as it's okay for the dog to eat, no onions, no grapes, no raisins, no chocolate. But other things, the dog just comes and eats. And so basically, Lazarus is saying, if only I had dog food, if only I had some of those scraps that fall from that feasting table, I'd be okay, I'd be at ease. But Lazarus gets nothing. In fact, the only mercy he receives is from the rich man's dogs, who lick his sores. There are some health benefits there. He must have understood that this would give him some hope. And we're not told if the rich man truly knew of Lazarus and ignored him, or just simply never, ever noticed him. And this is the risk for all of us, because oftentimes poverty is placed somewhere where we don't notice it, placed far away. The first time when I went to the Philippines and I saw the poverty of the Philippines, it just shook me. I've never seen anything quite like that. And I was disturbed, and it was a missions trip. I was just so concerned about it, and I got back home. But I remember before I left, the missionary there said, people are not going to understand what you've experienced. You're going to come back and want to change the world and tell, and preach from these texts that Jesus is preaching, and warn the rich person and wake them up, because we're so rich here compared to everyone else, no matter. And when you get back, you just see that. You see how difficult it is to get someone to wake up. And what's scary is that I myself then tend to fall asleep again too, and not remember how difficult it is for people, not only all over the world, but even here in our backyard. What Jesus is showing is that this chasm between, we hear this big ditch, or this big chasm in this story in the afterlife. I think Jesus is saying it doesn't start there. It starts here. There is a gate. This is the man lived in a gated community. There is a gate here. There is a wall here to keep that which I don't want to see, that which I don't want to be reminded of, out there and not here. It's interesting, we love to watch drama. Drama on TV and in movies is so popular, but we don't really want to be a part of it. I think that's the draw of drama. It's like, I get to experience that, but I don't really get to feel the pain. I remember Lillian and I used to watch the show Parenthood on NBC, and it's a show all about drama. It's a little bit cheesy and everything. But once I started working at the hospital, doing CPE at the hospital, clinical pastoral education, I was like, I don't want to watch Parenthood anymore. Like I have enough drama in my life doing this in the hospital. Why do I need to see a fictional person struggle with cancer when I just ministered on a whole floor of people dying of cancer? We don't want to get into the mess of life, into the drama of life, so we'd rather keep it away, but still we want to feel sad. We want to feel like we feel. We want to feel like we're concerned. I don't want to get too close to it. It's easy to gasp, to tweet to your friends about these things that we watch on TV, but in real life, when it matters, when lives are being broken in real time. It's hard. The gap doesn't start there. It starts here. We want to separate ourselves. People used to suffer and die in family, the home of the family, right? We didn't put them away. They used to be right there. Little children would see their grandmother or grandfather suffering right in their midst, but now we keep them far, far away. I think the most concerning details of this story, though, is that even after the rich man dies and descends into Hades, he still acts as privileged as he did on earth. Even as the roles are reversed, the rich man doesn't get it. So we see this big turning of the tables as they both die and go to their respective places. He's in agony, and he looks up and he sees Abraham. And he first of all plays kind of the race card. He says, Father Abraham, patriarch of patriarchs, leader of our nation, I am a fellow Jew. Have mercy on me, Father Abraham. But Father Abraham, I know you are rich. Father Abraham was very rich. He had many, many cattle, servants, and all of this stuff. He had a lot of money, a man of means. So the rich man looks up at Abraham. Man of means as I am, I don't want you to have to bother yourself. But send Lazarus, or he doesn't even, I think, use his name, but send that guy next to you that you're talking to as a servant to dip his finger in water and bring it to him. So he's still ordering people around, even in hell. Is that crazy? Is that not insane? He still hasn't learned his lesson in here. You know, I wonder why Abraham or why Lazarus, you'd think that Lazarus would be like, ooh, you know, this is my turn. This is my turn now to lay into the rich man, to really let him know, to remind him and shake him and say, I was at your gate. Smack, smack. To get his revenge, but Lazarus is silent through all of this. Lazarus is this man of immense mercy. You'd think Abraham might say, Lazarus, back away, I got this. And lay into that rich man, but they don't. They hold no ill will. They're as patient as possible. Abraham even calls him a child. Child, remember, you received good things, and Lazarus evil. Now it's changed. Now he's comforted and you're in agony. You built a gate to keep Lazarus away, and now a gate keeps you out. Now, note, this is a parable. Jesus isn't saying this is exactly what the afterlife is like. This is what heaven and hell is like. There's sort of this barrier, but it's not just a torment for those that are in hell, but they can actually see into heaven. All this stuff, sometimes we read too much into this. It's a parable, a metaphor to make a point here and now to the Pharisees. Many cultures that they had these sort of stories. And he's making a point. I think Jesus is bringing this barrier image into the afterlife. He's doing a really great job trying to shake the Pharisees and saying, take what you're doing now, flip it on its head, eternalize it for all of time, and see how that feels. Imagine if what you are doing, you're on the receiving end of it, but eternally in heaven and hell. I think that's what Jesus is sort of saying. You look at this and you look at that poor man, and you think, God, there's time. It doesn't really matter what I do here. And he's saying, take what you're taking now, take what you're doing now, spread it out over eternity. Walk in Lazarus' shoes. Spend eternity in Lazarus' shoes and see how it feels. And if you don't like how it feels, if you don't like where the metaphor goes, then change. Do something about it now. If it bothers you, then why aren't you bothered? I think if you wonder whether something that you're doing right now is of God's kingdom, I think this is a helpful thing to think about. What would it look like if I eternally did the same thing? We live in a world world of systematic oppression, of rule through fear, the gaps of the rich and poor growing ever wider, and we have to think and understand, if this were something that would happen and never stop, would it be a good thing? There's nothing left to say, really. He is where he is. There's a big chasm, and he will stay there. And he finally has a little bit of redemption. He starts thinking about someone else. Okay, you can't do that. There's a chasm. So therefore, can you send Lazarus again? He's still stuck in this thing of, I need to send a servant. Can you send Lazarus to tell my brothers? To tell my 5, likely as wealthy as I was, brothers, and tell them about this place, because I don't want them to come down here either. Now, if you do a little bit of math, 5 brothers plus 1 in hell, 6. 6 is an evil number in biblical times. Then if you do a little bit more math and say, what if Lazarus had been invited into the family as a brother? You get a perfect number. You get 7. So there's a little bit of subtle, perhaps, play on numbers here. My 5 brothers plus myself, full of evil, but if we had been open to inviting a new brother, a brother in need, then it would have been perfection. So Abraham says, look, they have Moses and the prophets, which the Pharisees, of course, were sure that they had in the bag. We know the law. We do the law really well. Yet another knock on them. Of course, feasting every day meant feasting on the Sabbath, and therefore these brothers might not be on church on Sunday, no, at the synagogue on Saturday. They don't hear that which would call them to transform, nor do they see the one who needs mercy. And so, a last-ditch effort from the rich man, he says, but if they saw someone raised from the dead, and I know that sends chills down our spines as Christians, and as Jesus is saying this, going towards his death, knowing one day he will rise from the dead, Abraham says, not even that. If they don't listen to Moses and the prophets, nothing will change. They already have the word here. They already have the stories of Moses, the formative stories of the entire nation, right? They were once slaves, oppressed people. If they don't get that story and how they should apply it, not even someone raising from the dead will change them. What's really scary here is Jesus saying, how difficult is it for us to transform? To be transformed. We're called the house of transformation. We want to see transformation, but it is difficult. It is hard. Jesus is saying through Abraham here that even though you have everything, even though you have the Word, even though we have Jesus Christ raised from the dead, that doesn't guarantee transformation. Jesus, in just a few short paragraphs, brilliant teacher, that he gets at the heart of how difficult this transformation is. To see the outcast, to bring them in as a brother, may cost us dearly in the short term. The transformation that ignoring our exclusionary behavior creates may cost us dearer still. Jesus is saying, do something now before it's too late. Right now you have the choice to change your life and to embrace the brother. But if you keep excluding, if you keep that barrier up, who's to say there isn't going to be a barrier later? For the sake of God, the God who tears down walls, may we tear down our gates and invite those that are waiting. Let us pray. God, yet another hard word today, yet another word that we may not want to hear. We live in some of the most powerful, wealthy areas in the entire world. Forgive us. Forgive us that we often turn a blind eye to those in need. Forgive us for the ways that our communities push people out and away. Help us, Lord, now to break down walls and to help those who desperately need help, those at our gates, Lord, we pray. In Jesus' name.